What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto's parents abandoned him and he became the Reaper's heir? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. Minato, don't do this. Take the whole 9 tails with us. I won't. We need to keep the balance of power between the village so our son can be safe in the future. There's just no other way. At least make the fox regenerate our chakra with its chakra that assimilates with Naruto's in the seal so we can talk to him all the time in the future. That's possible? Yes, you idiot. That's my specialty, remember? I wasn't aware you can do that, but since chakra sealing and assimilation is your strongest point, I shouldn't be surprised you know how to. Alright. I need you to help me in the sealing by standing in front of me when I do the Reaper Death Seal. That way the Shinigami listens to both our commands and the seal is clear on our minds when he makes the seal to make sure there's no mistake with what you are doing in my seal so they don't conflict with each other and serve their purpose independently. If it lets us talk to our son, so be it. I don't care if my soul is in that blasted death god's stomach as long as I am with you. Alright then, I'm going to hug you Kushina and go ahead and do it. I'm ready Minato. Minato does hand signs in front of Kushina and finishes the last one with a scream. Fuinjutsu. Shiki Fujin. 6 years later. Naruto was ecstatic at finally being able to use his chakra the day before when the third Hokage helped him figure it out. His chakra felt extremely great when it circulated his body the first time. Now the chakra was gaining speed around his body and racing with his blood flow. The third Hokage told him that unlocking chakra was done when people were 10 in normal families, but by unlocking it when he was 6 it might help him have better control of his chakra in the future since he would be familiarized with how it works. Naruto laid on his bed after a long day of using his chakra constantly. 3 coil springs snapped when he lied down, making him note that the bed was a bit small for him now. The bed has been without problems for years, but now it has been creaking recently when he was on and falling apart in the last month. He walks up to the door to measure his height and sees that he is half a foot taller. The scale shows he gained 20 pounds. Although it was a large increase since the last time he weighed himself and checked his height, it shouldn't make the bed springs snap since he is well below the weight limit. He removes the mattress and sees that the bed springs are actually non-existent. There's only like 20 still up and functional while the majority are missing. Naruto decides to replace the whole bed since his feet peek out of the bed now anyways. Since any store will give him a bad quality bed, Naruto decides asking Hokage Gigi for one would work well for him. Naruto sat down to meditate and feel his chakra move across his body. His chakra as normal moved throughout his body, but he felt it assimilate with other chakra in his stomach area. Deciding this anomaly was a bit too weird since it has never happened before, he focuses most of his chakra there to see what happens. All his chakra assimilates with the other chakra and becomes far more potent and powerful. Deciding that there is no risk involved, he assimilates with the chakra faster by sending more of his own chakra to it. Eventually he is pulled into a weird but bright space. Hello? Anyone there? Naruto says with a shaking voice. Yes, said 2 voices simultaneously. A blonde spiky-haired man and a red-haired beautiful woman come out of nowhere. Naruto starts freaking out. He doesn't know what to say when he is pulled into somewhere strange with 2 strange people. Naruto curls up into a ball and looks at them with fear. OWWW. Why did you do that, Kushina? That hurts a lot. Naruto freezes up. He looks up and stops trembling. The first words that came out of his mouth make the 2 strangers jump. Am I dead? No, you aren't dead, Naruto. This is called your mindscape. Everyone has one, but not everyone can get to their own mindscape, so this is extremely surprising and means you are a genius. The blonde-haired man said while obviously freaking out at how to explain to a 6-year-old that he isn't dead. Are you my parents? Naruto asks. Part of his expression is shown with fear, anxiety, curiosity, and most of all longing. Yes, we are your parents. The red-haired woman says rather excited. She runs over to Naruto and hugs him while the blonde-haired man who is now his father walks up to him and hugs him as well with his mother. Naruto breaks down crying and looks up at both of them in tears. I never thought I had parents. Everyone told me my parents left me because I'm a demon or that they were traitors. They never let me play with their kids and some even tried killing me on my birthday. Naruto finished while sniffing and crying. The two loving parents visibly winced at Naruto's declaration since they couldn't see what his life was like until he unlocked his chakra. How I wish I could beat up every damn person that did that. Minato, get me out of here so I can do that personally. The red-haired woman said while having her hair float up and have an aura of pure anger which scared Naruto in the process. Calm down, Kushina. You know we can't since there is no sealing jutsu to revive us and someone would have to use that on us anyways. The most we can do is teach Naruto everything we know so he won't be beat up. The blonde-haired man replied while sweat dropping and chuckling nervously at her declaration to beat up everyone who did something wrong to her son. Alright, Minato. Besides, it seems I am scaring my son by being mad anyways. She says apologetic and proceeds to hug Naruto even harder than before she got mad. Mom, you are crushing me. Naruto barely says while out of breath in response to the bear hug Kushina gave him. Sorry hun, you are just too cute. Naruto smiles and feels great at the fact that his parents are going to help him and shower him with the love that he never had. Will I be able to talk to you both in the future? Will you train me and help me become a ninja and stuff? Mom and Dad? Yes, as long as you assimilate your chakra with that other chakra. Yes, we will train you in here at night, and yes, we will help you become a great ninja. Minato answers with a smile and Kushina bouncing up and down in excitement of helping her son. Should I tell Hokage Gigi that you are both here? No, Naruto. It will do you more harm and either way he will tell you to keep it secret. Don't tell anyone that we are here. Kushina says with a grim look. Then how do I explain my training I will do with both of you? Reading books. Minato says as if this question was the first thing he was expecting. I don't know how to read. I tried to once but no would help me. His parents looks at him with shock. Minato has a stern face while Kushina seethes with anger. Eventually Minato sighs and crouches to Naruto's eye level and looks at his son's blue eyes. We will teach you everything like the parents we would have been had we survived the 9 tails. Naruto looks up at shock and realizes that they are dead but somehow talking to him. He thought that they were in his mind not dead. Minato realizes what Naruto just thought of and starts moving his mouth. It's called sealing and it can do miracles like this. My name is Minato Namikaze, otherwise known as the 4th Hokage, and your mother's name is Kushina Uzumaki. She is my wife and the last Uzumaki in Konoha before you were born. You don't have my last name to protect you, Naruto, and that's how it will be for a long time until you become as strong as me. Minato says slowly so Naruto could understand, with Kushina nodding her head as if she was agreeing with everything her husband said. So the 4th Hokage is my dad? Naruto says while seeking confirmation from his father. Yes, Naruto. Then why does everyone hate me? Why do they say you guys abandoned me or that you were traitors? Why? Because I sealed half the 9 tails in you. Tailed beasts cannot be killed but they can be sealed. I believed you were the only person who I could trust to control the 9 tails power. Because we both believe in you and love you. We were desperate to save the village that would protect you in the future even if it did treat you wrong in the end. But from what you say they don't know you are my son. Let's keep it that way so people from other villages don't try to kill you. At the very least, from what I could tell from what you told me, children don't hate you because they don't know you have the 9 tails, so you can make friends though. Minato says with a depressed tone and a sad look on his face. Naruto starts tearing up again and is shocked by the revelation that he is the host of the 9 tails. Besides Naruto, I was also a person who held the 9 tails back. You aren't alone and I can definitely help you cope. Kushina says while gently stroking Naruto's yellow hair. Naruto stops crying and calms down. Alright Mom and Dad, I promise not to tell anyone and to work hard to make both of you proud. I'll become respected and become Hokage so people don't ignore me or make fun of me. Believe it, Naruto says more determined than ever. His parents have a gaping expression because being Hokage was their dream. They smile at Naruto with all three hugging each other again. Become the Hokage, Naruto. We believe in you, Naruto. Even though we will stop pushing you to do severe physical conditioning like we have this whole year, you still need to do some training once a week to keep up your shape and so you don't lose strength. Kushina warned. Naruto dumbly kept nodding at the words his mom has told him. The past year was pretty boring in his opinion since the only thing regarding chakra that he used was climbing trees with his feet and walking on water so that they can intensify the training significantly more. Push-ups in the water, running around as fast as he can while using weights, practicing academy-level taijutsu stances hundreds of times, and way more. But this led to him believing that having a family is important as motivational support and most of all, to feel loved and cared for. It makes you feel so much better to know someone wants you in their life. Alright, I believe it's time to begin the art of sealing since you have enough discipline and seriousness at this point in your life. Minato said while having his arms crossed over his chest. Kushina hurriedly nods and then grabs Naruto's attention by slamming Minato to the side. We also have to work on your chakra control. I know the perfect exercises for you since I was also a Jinchuriki when I was alive. Prepare yourself, a few are somewhat dangerous my child. Kushina adds while Minato groans and gets up. We should also work on stealth and speed for you. A ninja who makes himself a target is a dead ninja was what Jiraiya-sensei always told me. Minato proclaims proudly. Naruto winces at the name Jiraiya and sees his mom get agitated with the name. Minato gasps for air a second later after getting slugged across his stomach by Kushina. Don't ever mention that pervert in front of my Naruto until he is old enough. He is a horrible influence on kids. Naruto internally decides that if he is ever going to meet his dad's sensei, he would make sure that Jiraiya doesn't act like a pervert by walking away when Jiraiya was becoming perverted. That way, his dad will be saved from getting slugged by his mom for being taught by a bad influence. Okay, time to go home since we are done with training today. I'm leaving the mindscape now. His parents wave Naruto away as Naruto exits the mindscape. Naruto finally leaves his mindscape with one last happy look at his parents and happily skips out of the training ground and runs back to his apartment. An Anbu ninja with gray hair watches him closely the whole time and gasps when he assumes that Naruto entered his mindscape like his sensei's wife did sometimes since he wasn't circulating chakra while in a meditative position. He quickly comes to the conclusion that Naruto is in contact with the Nine Tails and that he should report this to the Hokage. The ninja shunsins away to the Hokage's office as fast as possible. Once at home, Naruto starts preparing his dinner with one of various recipes that his mom gave him so he doesn't eat cup ramen every day. Although she agrees that ramen is good food and is most of all cheap, it's not very healthy and his body wouldn't be able to support him in the future if he eats just cup ramen even with the Nine Tails helping him. Deciding that he is in the mood for spaghetti, he takes out a handful of spaghetti and puts it into boiling water. When they finish cooking, he puts the spaghetti into a strainer and afterwards puts the spaghetti into a separate bowl. He then puts tomato sauce, tomato paste, and diced tomatoes into a pan and adds the spaghetti and starts mixing them together. He serves himself and leaves whatever is left onto a storage container and then into a hot food holder in case he is still hungry afterwards. He eats alone with no one there to talk to him in his 4-chair table that would have been where his parents sat. He hears someone knock on the door when he finished eating. Naruto cautiously walks to the door and opens it only to find the third Hokage. "Hello Hokage Gigi," Naruto says to greet the elderly village leader. Naruto thought this was unexpected since his allowance isn't due until 3 days from now. "Ah, hello Naruto. I need to ask you something important," the Hokage said while clearly worried about something. If it's about why I didn't go eat ramen yesterday like promised, it's because I'm saving up for a calligraphy set. The sealing book you gave me said that bad handwriting gives out disastrous results that could turn out to be an explosion. Naruto calmly explains as if knowing exactly what was so important. That was slightly concerning, but no, I meant something else Naruto. I learned that you meditate a lot but sometimes you don't circulate chakra, so I want to know if there is a problem in your chakra's circulatory system. Hiruzen says with a well-seasoned lie that can only be done with years of experience. Naruto sighs and then nervously chuckles. "Well, it's embarrassing to say, but sometimes I just fall asleep." Naruto proclaims with honesty. In truth, it's not a complete lie. Sometimes he falls asleep while training in a meditative position because he pushed himself too hard. Hiruzen face faults and 2 Anbu fall from the trees. "I see," the third Hokage says while stroking his beard after recovering from such a simple answer. Naruto seemed truthful and that seemed like a likely explanation anyways. "Want to eat some spaghetti Hokage Gigi? I made it myself and I think it turned out good," Naruto says with a grin. "Sure, why not? I'll just sit in the table and wait for you to prepare my food then," Hiruzen says while walking over to the table. Naruto runs to the kitchen and grabs a plate. Quickly going to the hot food holder, He grabs the spaghetti container and puts the still steaming spaghetti into the plate. He walks out moments later over to the table with the Hokage's food. "Here's the food, Hokage Gigi," Naruto calmly says while plating the food in front of the Hokage. "Thank you, Naruto. It looks good." Naruto smiles in response. Hiruzen tastes it and is very much surprised that it tastes good. Deciding he got the recipe off one of the cookbooks on the shelf, he shrugs off Naruto's recently discovered culinary skills and enjoys the food. The Anbu outside were salivating at the smell of the food since the only thing they ate were ration bars a few hours ago. "So you are studying sealing, Naruto?" The third Hokage asks after eating most of his food. "Yep, I think they look cool and for some reason, even easy to understand," Naruto says while internally thanking his parents for teaching him how to make basic storage seals. "I can get you all the supplies you need for sealing. You just have to go to the Ninja Academy next school year," Hiruzen replied to Naruto. Naruto gets a happy grin at this response. "You betcha. I am for sure going to be a great ninja and then after that, Hokage." Hiruzen chuckles at Naruto's antics and pats Naruto on the head. "I know you can be Hokage, Naruto. Maybe better than this old man. I'll get the sealing supplies for you here tomorrow while you are training." Naruto hyperactively jumps in excitement like any 7-year-old getting a good present. Although Naruto tries to act seriously, he is still a child. In his mindscape, Kushina and Minato giggle at Naruto's reaction to new sealing equipment while longing to be alive to see these types of moments personally when they get something for Naruto. Although they can't talk to Naruto outside of the mindscape because they were in a rush combining the two seals and couldn't proof-check the seal, they can at the very least see what he is doing, saying, hearing, and on rare cases hear his thoughts. The Hokage leaves the apartment after finishing and thanking Naruto for the meal. He immediately runs back and gives Naruto the monthly orphan stipend before he forgets due to advanced age. After that he casually walks across the street all the way to his home in the Sarutobi clan compound. Naruto locks the door and decides to go to sleep in his oversized bed that was made for 2 adults. Where his parents would have slept should they have remained alive. He depressedly sighs and sets the alarm for 6 a.m. so he can wake up and train with his parents. Eventually, he falls asleep while thinking of even more depressing topics about what his life would be like if his parents were still alive. Would he have siblings? Would he be able to play with other kids? Would he not be hated for something out of his control? These questions are on his mind constantly. The only way to not think about it is by distracting himself with training, cooking, eating, talking, etc. Minato and Kushina hear these thoughts this time and sigh out sadly. "If only we were still alive," they repeat to themselves constantly. Distracted by whenever Naruto enters his mindscape, they can only think of how their life would be had they survived the Nine Tails attack. Naruto's alarm goes off and he gets up in a good mood since his training will be changing today. He quickly showers, changes, and runs out the door outside where he makes sure he locked it. He runs over to the nearest and isolated training field with his enhanced speed he got from physical training the past year, and sits under a tree. He enters his mindscape and faces both his mother and father. They smile at him and give him a big hug. "We are very proud of what you have accomplished so far. Now are you ready to become stronger, Naruto? The road ahead of you is littered with obstacles and pain. But we can both promise to stick with you and believe in you no matter what," the blonde former Kage says. Kushina wipes a few tears from her eyes while Naruto grins and nods at his father's words. "Alright then, let's do some serious training so you are more than ready for Genin. I don't want my son bullied by wannabe older ninjas for who he is," Kushina proclaims loudly and most of all with utmost determination to help her son. Naruto was sitting in a meditative position on a tree whilst waiting for the Hokage to come and give the opening ceremony speech. It was quite early in the morning and no one has showed up. Nearby walking villagers and occasionally a ninja gave him a death glare with a minuscule amount of killing intent. Naruto was just about to enter his mindscape to talk with his parents and pass his time, but the killing intent mixed in with the glares today was ridiculous. Deeply sighing in defeat at the idiocy of the villagers, he enters his mindscape with the Nine Tails as an added presence with his parents. "I tell you, fourth Hokage. If the third Hokage actually cared about your son, he would have told Naruto about you already. He is just trying to uphold his promise of raising Naruto with the least amount of effort. Why do you think a week after Naruto started sealing practice, The third Hokage banned him from learning more. The Nine Tails argued at Minato. It's the civilian council and most of all Danzo you fluff butt. They were also thorns to my side and made me do things I didn't want to do because they did stupid shit for their benefit. Minato said in response. The Nine Tails, clearly not happy that he was refuted, turned to the other side of his cage with its ass in clear view of everyone to make their conversations awkward. Kushina grew a tick mark at how childish her husband and the tailed beast can act when arguing. Will you two stop being children? Even Naruto behaves better than both of you and he is 8. Naruto winced at what his mother said while the two other members of his mindscape looked down in defeat. At times even cage-level ninja and chakra beasts can be so childish. They are supposed to be wise but bicker like children. Kushina clearly sensed Naruto becoming uncomfortable when she said he is 8. She knew that it was because he got attacked when walking home on his birthday this year by a Chunin team instead of the usual crowds of civilians he was able to avoid on his 7th birthday. She quickly goes over to Naruto and hugs him to comfort her child. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have mentioned you were 8. It's all fine Naruto, please don't cry. Kushina said while desperately trying to prevent Naruto from breaking down at that traumatic incident. To her surprise, Naruto didn't start crying like any 8-year-old would have after having gone through such a traumatic incident. I won't cry, Mom. That's what those ninja would have wanted me to do. They wanted me to see, feel, and submit to the pain. Crying won't help me much in the end. If I did submit to the pain and seek revenge, then I would become a true demon at that point. Like Dad said that night, ninja endure. Naruto calmly said to the surprise of all his tenants. They expected him to act like he was younger, someone who would cry under painful circumstances. Even the Nine Tails grew a hint of respect. Had it been him that went through what his container suffered in his childhood, he would have been more insane than his brother the One Tails. You have grown in more ways than one, my son. I am very proud of you. Minato said proudly to the agreement of Kushina and a huff of annoyance from the Nine Tails. Both parents glare in annoyance at the Nine Tails who deeply sighs at their antics. I am a freaking beast made up of hate and chakra that's supposed to hate humans for trying to get my power. Naruto, I can respect because of his childhood, perseverance, innocence, and most of all courage. Even I know I wouldn't have been able to live through that if I were human, but you too. You two were kind of pampered, to be honest. No one knew that Kushina had me in her, but they know that Naruto has me sealed in his gut, which makes most people attack him for being me apparently. Even though we all know that if he didn't exist, everyone in this village would be dead hands down. Kushina winced while Minato's eyes widened under the massive implications to the village. If the villagers went too far, then not only his son would be dead, but so would everyone else that his son was saving by living. Why are you unusually nice to Naruto? You were never nice to me. Kushina pouted after recovering from what the tailed beast said. When someone sees you for the first time, doesn't freak out, and does exactly what a prophecy that the Sage of Six Paths said about there being a person who will unite the whole world by treating tailed beasts like a friend and companion by trying to be friends with you, it's hard not to like them. You freaked out and insulted me a lot. Besides, he has visited me more than you did your whole life in 6 months. The Kyuubi says with honesty. Kushina and Minato's eyes widen. The tailed beast wanted friends? That's it? The Kyuubi was around Naruto's mindscape when Naruto needed the Nine Tails chakra on his birthday. Apparently, he was watching Naruto the whole time since it was more interesting than sleeping but couldn't get into contact due to the seal's handiwork. It's been a bit, I'm going to check if the entrance ceremony is starting. See you all later, Naruto proclaims. His parents wave him off while the tailed beast sealed in his gut grins. He's probably about to make his mindscape a battlefield with his parents by arguing with curse words. Naruto opens his eyes and sees that there is certainly more people at the opening ceremony grounds. Though, it is still empty compared to normal days when merchants pass by all the time with civilians walking nearby as well. Seems they had to take a detour since the street was probably closed for the third Hokage to give his speech. Glancing around, he sees various clan heirs. They are noticeable because the clan leaders are with their children. He sees the Hyuga clan leader that protected him against some civilians, various clan leaders he found in a book that his father was all too familiar with, and the last Uchiha. No one has been able to approach him or get on his good side since his clan's massacre. He then sees the third Hokage casually walk to the stage and drink out of a glass of water. Once he drank a bit, he cleared his throat, which ushered everyone to become quiet. Today is a special day for everyone and with utmost importance for all the children. A new year is going to start today, which means a new class of future ninja that will one day be protecting this village with their will of fire. I encourage all students to train and study hard. Clan heirs have had the privilege of entering a pre-academy class, so this means double the work for everyone else. Do not fret, even with these odds you can still become an exceptional ninja like our Yondaime Hokage who entered as an orphan, so never give up and follow the will of fire. Now onto the Ninja Academy Core Class student placements. May each teacher come up to the stage and one by one get your students? Take them to their class, I have some paperwork to deal with. With that, the legendary third Hokage, who is revered as the god of shinobi, shuns away to defeat the one enemy he cannot defeat and multiplies exponentially. Before, he was able to just use shadow clones to suppress it. But with his advanced age, he cannot handle the strain of a load of paperwork entering his mind, so he has to finish the paperwork manually. A clear reminder that he has to choose a successor soon. The teachers start calling out the name of their students. One particular class under a chunin known as Uruka consists of most if not all clan heirs and other particularly important children. Naruto suspects that the clan heir class under that chunin would be his class since he is the heir of 2 clans and the 9 tails container. His suspicions were confirmed to be right when Uruka called his name. He walked over to Uruka's group while receiving various glares and a large amount of killing intent from the civilians and a varying degree of pity from the shinobi clan heads. Naruto suddenly senses something approaching. He ducks just in time to avoid a kunai from hitting his head. The shinobi clan heads take a moment to react to what happened and jump away to chase the assailant. A few clan heads remain to deal with any other threats. Naruto hears a hissing noise and sees it as a kunai with an explosive tag on it. If he runs, then the clan heirs will more than likely die. He grabs the kunai and chucks it up in the air, much to the surprise of all the chunin teachers who have yet to react. The kunai goes up well over 50 feet up in the air and explodes. The third Hokage shuns back in surprise and worry. The clan leader from the Nara clan reports to the Hokage about what happened. The third Hokage's expression turns from grim and angry to finally surprise. He looks at Naruto with surprise, worry, and pride. I want all ninja to pursue the assailant. All teachers take the students to their class. I will deploy Anbu to guard the premises until I get a suitable security system in place. We will get to the bottom of this. The old battle-hardened Kage commanded. Not a second later, various clan heads return with a genin-level ninja. Lord Hokage, this is the assailant. Preliminary inspection dictates that he was after Naruto Uzumaki and the clan heirs if the exploding tag was anything to show. I say we execute him in the sight of all our ninja to show that not even ninja can get away with attacking us. A Yamanaka says while holding an unconscious ninja no older than 16. The Hokage nods and looks at the civilians still here. Good job, Inoichi. Torture him and then imprison him. We will schedule an execution later. Anbu, secure a perimeter around the academy whilst I establish security measures with the council. Several dark figures who weren't even noticeable disperse out to several locations. The Yamanaka clan head shuns away with the unconscious genin. The academy teachers regain their thoughts and make sure all their students didn't run away. After a quick head count, they make their class follow them to their specified classes. Naruto sits down in an isolated corner in which the Uchiha decided to sit at. The two acknowledge each other and pay attention to what Uruka has to say whilst their other classmates choose a seat. Various females run over to where Naruto was located and sit around him. He sees that they are staring at Sasuke with lust-filled eyes. Sasuke shows clear disgust and seems repulsed at all their stares. Deciding brooding might make them go away, he broods in the corner, which actually makes it worse since a blonde-haired girl and a pink-haired girl start fighting. I want to sit next to Sasuke. Kid next to Sasuke, get off that seat and choose another. The pink-haired girl states. Naruto, who sees that they want his seat badly, tenses. Sasuke looks at Naruto with pleading eyes, suggesting not to let his fangirls sit there. Deciding to respect Sasuke's decision, he looks at the fangirls. No, buzz off. If he was even interested in you, he would have approached you. He sees you both as nuisances. Naruto proclaims to the horror of the fangirls. Their minuscule killing intent stacks onto Naruto. Naruto looks at every single girl giving him killing intent and gives them killing intent twice as much as the one they gave him. A couple of girls run away in fear whilst some stupid ones tremble and get into a taijutsu stance. Sasuke looks clearly surprised since most people he befriended would run away when those dumb whores surround said friend and beat him up. Afterwards, he loses said friend in fear of being beat up by the fangirls. The girls begin their assault only to have their punches deflected by Naruto and face retaliation with his killing intent spiking at them. A couple of girls faint while the pink-haired and blonde-haired girl remain. If you have nothing to say, then leave and choose a seat. The teacher is about to start his lesson but needs everyone to sit down. Naruto proclaims while Iruka grins and nods his head up and down. He had never seen a boy handle fangirls with such efficiency in his whole life. Eventually the class starts with Naruto and Sasuke isolated in a corner in which more boys ended up at. Fangirls, which make up most of the girls, seem to have kicked the boys out of their spots and moved over to where Naruto and Sasuke were at since it was empty. Iruka goes over a history lesson about the First Shinobi War, which should easily cover an entire semester. Naruto, having read books due to the insistence of his father and mother, sees this as something he already knows. He looks outside and stares at the window. It has started raining and the soothing noise of rain makes several people fall asleep. He starts succumbing to said sleep until he realizes that this is a genjutsu. He makes a hand sign and silently chants, Kai, in his head. He looks around and sees a white-haired Chunin perform hand signs. Iruka glares at said Chunin who just laughs it up. Mizuki, why do you make my class fall asleep? This is a class of clan heirs. Iruka says while clearly angered. You have the damn demon brat here. I want to kill him. Naruto frowns at Mizuki's declaration. Even though he trained more than his classmates, he is far from Chunin level. His chakra reserves may be higher than a Jonin's but definitely not his control, so escaping while enhancing his body with chakra won't work. No, Mizuki. I will report this to the Hokage. Iruka says with concern and anger. Mizuki laughs at Iruka again. You think I would do that? No. It was just something that the Hokage asked me to do in order to determine who is a traitor. Iruka instantly sighs in relief since even he can't defeat Mizuki and certainly not defend the whole class of clan heirs. A constant reminder that the ninja world is not a place you can relax even at home. Naruto assesses the situation and realizes that Mizuki just lied. If he wasn't lying, he wouldn't have focused killing intent on him. Deciding that he needed to be careful with Mizuki around, he wakes up when Sasuke wakes up. It seems Mizuki has decided to release the genjutsu on the class, which led to various people waking up. The lesson continues as planned even if they were behind schedule by 5 minutes. All Iruka had to do is just start the class earlier tomorrow since everyone would settle in their seats faster. The lunch bell rings to the relief of various students. Naruto walks out of class with Iruka's instructions on where they can go for lunch, and sits underneath a tree where he pulls out his lunchbox from a storage seal in a pocket he put down. Various of his utensils and other stuff are located there. Unfortunately, this is as far as he got in the art of sealing since he needs to be interactive with seals in order to learn how they work. He starts eating a few sandwiches and spots Sasuke running away from a horde of fangirls. Chuckling lightly at Sasuke's bad fortune to attract fangirls, he continues eating. After he finishes his sandwiches, he enters his mindscape in the remaining 30 minutes of lunch. His parents and Beast were awfully quiet. His father wasn't arguing and his mother wasn't mediating the two. So, do fangirls ever become ninjas? If they did, I would freak out since they seem utterly useless. Naruto says, which makes all other 3 people chuckle. Very few do, Naruto. Even then, they are quite annoying regardless. Kushina says, should I change my clothing style to be more ninja-like? Wearing an orange jumpsuit isn't going to keep me safe and I want to take being a ninja serious. Naruto says. His dad chuckles to the amusement of everyone. I think if you wore a white or black jacket, some black or blue utility pants, black shinobi sandals, and a ninja quality undershirt to prevent getting cleaved in half would make you ninja-like. Not to mention that it would look good on you. Kushina says while imagining Minato when he was younger. Minato and surprisingly the Nine Tails seem to agree. Kushina sends a questioning glance at the Kyuubi who frowns. It would be embarrassing to keep healing a brat who wears orange. Wearing orange makes yourself a training dummy if I were to be honest. The Nine Tails says smoothly. Minato and Kushina seem to sigh and agree with the tailed beast. Alright, I'll buy that later today then. Class starts in about 5 minutes, so I'm out for now. Naruto says while looking at his parents. Wait, Naruto. Make sure to make some good friends. Kushina says. Minato agrees and puts a hand on Naruto's shoulder. Off you go. Can't have you late for class. Minato says with a smile. Naruto nods and leaves his mindscape. He looks around to see Sasuke eating on the roof with an Anbu behind him and the fangirls on the ground screaming for attention from Sasuke. Looks like an Anbu felt pity and took Sasuke up so he can eat. He walks back to class and takes his seat again. Sasuke returns a minute later and retakes the seat next to Naruto. Seeing there were no fangirls around, Sasuke faces Naruto. Thanks for helping me, Naruto. Although, the spot you were at wouldn't have saved me from those fangirls since they would have surrounded me. Sasuke says while sweat dropping. Seems dealing with fangirls was one way to befriend the last Uchiha. Ah, no problem, Sasuke. They just got on my nerves, hence my outburst and me giving them killing intent to disperse them. Naruto says calmly. Sasuke acknowledges the answer with a typical Uchiha grunt and sees the fangirls run in. Naruto's sweat dropped and had a feeling this was going to be a long stay at the academy at this rate. Much has happened since the first day of school. He gained new friends which include the Nine Tails and several clan heirs from the academy. He has furthered his studies and trained more. Today he was late to school on his final day. Not a good way to end his years in the academy. Naruto, you overslept on your graduation exam day? Iruka yelled out to the amusement of various classmates. Naruto has just walked in 20 minutes late and came to that conclusion because Naruto isn't part of a clan or anything and wasn't sick yesterday either. Kiba in particular was snickering at the fact that one of the smartest students overslept on the day he would graduate. Well, you see, a new neighbor was moving in and blocked the door, so I had to wait 15 minutes and then it took a bit more to run all the way here. Naruto said while slightly frowning. Iruka for his part looked apologetic at yelling at Naruto and making Naruto seem like a clown. Mizuki walks through the door while focusing a minuscule amount of killing intent constantly with the intention of making Naruto lose his cool and just maybe flunk his exam. Naruto noticed this and makes his expression remain neutral like his father showed him. A shinobi who lets his emotions loose and unrestrained is easily manipulated and killed. One of the wiser quotes from the Toad sage Jiraiya that aren't perverted. The first test was a paper exam that had basic ninja knowledge and some advanced questions regarding the trajectory of a kunai when thrown at a certain speed and height at various lengths. It was a physics question that made students think about whether or not their kunai would be wasted in a battle or make it to its intended target. No one had the time to calculate it though, so eventually you would learn how far it would go through experience. Naruto looked over at Sasuke's test and realized they were vastly different however. He did a ram seal and long and behold, it was a multi-layered genjutsu so elegantly placed that Naruto would not be able to tell it was a genjutsu. He suspected Mizuki had to be the one to do it if his sudden spike in killing intent was anything as an indication. Mizuki did give him the paper in the bottom of the stack after all instead of grabbing the one on the top like everyone else after all. Afterwards, it was a taijutsu spar between his classmates to see if the students had proper form in their taijutsu. Naruto resorted to using a speed-based taijutsu which relied on fast reflexes and a large amount of speed. His opponent switched constantly since everyone would fight everyone eventually to make sure that their form is present against various styles. Although fun, it was certainly not serious sparring which annoyed Naruto to no ends. But he had to admit, today was shortened so that the people who don't pass leave and don't sit through a graduation speech that won't apply to them. Next, the infamous 3 academy jutsu were up and needless to say, civilian-born students suffered the most since they didn't take their training seriously. Most civilians thought they'd be a cool ninja and be praised for being a ninja and become rich. If they were able to do each academy jutsu once, they wouldn't practice it again since they would think they mastered it even if it were a fluke. Naruto was able to ace the exam even if his 30 imaginary, useless, and intangible clones were excessive to Iruka. Regardless, Naruto obtained his headband and happily went on his way. Alright then, those who passed stay seated and the rest leave. A different teacher will teach you next year. Half the class got up in disappointment, leaving a perfect amount of 9 teams of 3. Though this was more than the usual class, last year's failed portion of the class joined in for the graduation exam. Congratulations in becoming a Konoha ninja. I know most of you sleep in my speeches, so I won't bother. Iruka, being the most sentimental of both of us, might give you one, but otherwise, in a week you will learn if your team placements. Enjoy your 1-week break, you ungrateful brats. Mizuki said while ending with emphasis on the last part. Most of the class cheered besides Shikamaru, who was sleeping already, and Naruto, who remained as calm as ever to the annoyance of Mizuki. Sasuke, being Sasuke, didn't give off a hint of emotion, making several new kunoichi admire how cool he is. To everyone's surprise, something came up and Iruka didn't have to do a speech, so he dismissed everyone. Naruto climbed to the top of the school building and sat in a meditative position so he can speak with his parents. Mom and Dad, I'm a ninja now. Your training and studying really helped me in the exam. Especially since Mizuki places a genjutsu to make me fail. Naruto said with a grin. We saw, Naruto. We are extremely proud of you and know that we will keep supporting you. Kushina said while trying to hold back tears. Another moment where she can't physically celebrate it with his boy. Minato hugs Kushina, who in turn hugs Naruto. The three happily hug for a while and be a happy family that they would have been had the 9 tails not attacked. Alright, off you go, Naruto. With Mizuki around, I suspect if he is going to do anything to you, he will do it today. Minato said with utmost certainty. Naruto looked thoughtful for a moment and then clearly analyzed the situation. I see. If he wants to sabotage me as a ninja, he would do it now when I am supposedly weaker than him by crippling me. Naruto thoughtfully added. Minato smiled and put his hand on Naruto's head. Exactly. So it'd be better if you don't enter your mindscape for today, since it leaves you relatively defenseless. We can make it so a second in real life is ours in here at one point when you become a seal master to reduce this risk later. Minato said while smiling. Kushina smiled at her husband's interaction with her son. The 9 tails' eyes suddenly shot open. Naruto, exit now. He is attacking right now. I sense a large amount of hate approaching you. The 9 tails exclaimed with desperation. Naruto's eyes shot open and shifted his head a bit. A kunai went right next to his head, cutting off several strands of his hair. Damn demon, dodged that? No worry, there's more where that came from. Mizuki said with a sadistic and feral grin. Naruto frowned and got up. He didn't have any weapons on him since they are prohibited in the academy without adult supervision. Mizuki threw several at Naruto, who dodged most of them and caught one in his hand. Mizuki grew mad and started spinning a Fuma shuriken. Naruto, realizing he wouldn't be able to block it with a kunai, drops his kunai. Mizuki throws the Fuma shuriken, which to his surprise Naruto catches it in his hand. How dare you? You damn demon brat, die. Mizuki launches a kunai with an explosive tag aimed at Naruto's feet. Naruto's eyes widen and quickly runs to the side. Mizuki decides that the demon isn't going to be killed if the demon is rational. Did you know you are the Kyuubi? Hayu brat? Naruto's expression doesn't change to Mizuki's disappointment. Deciding the boy is the Kyuubi, hence the boy not being affected, he angrily charges in as an attempt to kill Naruto and become Orochimaru's subordinate after stealing the Forbidden Scroll. Not thinking rationally enough, Mizuki is surprised when Iruka appears and blocks him. Why are you attacking Naruto, and what's up with the explosion? Iruka said bravely while secretly hoping he stalled enough for more ninja to appear and detain Mizuki. Mizuki sneers at Iruka and engage in a taijutsu match, with Mizuki gaining the upper hand. Mizuki forgot about Naruto for that moment, who unleashed some 9 tails chakra to warn the Hokage. Mizuki stares at Naruto while laughing maniacally. The demon decided to finally reveal himself? So be it. I'll become a hero and a traitor in one day. Mizuki said while thinking he had pissed off Naruto. Naruto's 9-tailed chakra then assimilated with Naruto's, which led to no chakra waste and a refilled reserve that he didn't really need refilled. Whatever works, he supposed. In 30 seconds the third Hokage appeared in battle clothes and with several Anbu. Noticing the fighting, the Anbu quickly suppressed Iruka and Mizuki and cuffed them like prisoners with a chakra restraining seal. Hiruzen calmly looked into Naruto's eyes and noted that the boy didn't seem in any distress or in 9 tails form. Most likely he wanted to get my attention. Though we will talk about the 9 tails chakra later. Hiruzen thought while considering what Naruto wanted to warn him about. Mizuki is a traitor who wanted to kill me. I am sure he has other reasons to attack me though, since it seemed he planned on running away from the village if his overly packed backpack indicated anything today after class. Naruto said to the shock of Iruka and Mizuki, who never thought that Naruto was this observant. The third Hokage winced knowing that Naruto would bring up getting paid for stopping a traitor so that he can buy more stuff essential to ninja, including a Fuinjutsu kit. Though if he paid Naruto, it wasn't an actual mission and it would come out of his paycheck since he knew that his advisors wouldn't support him. If he did pay Naruto as a mission regardless, the advisors he had will bombard him with paperwork for the whole week. Weighing his options, he realized that Naruto had more chakra, so the shadow clone jutsu would do him better as compensation. Naruto's rants about the essentially useless clone jutsu were a pretty good indication that he wanted to get elemental clones as soon as he learned his element. Plus, he wouldn't ask for compensation for stopping a traitor, which would normally be an A-ranked mission, if he learned how invaluable the shadow clone would be for him. Good job. In celebration of your efforts in keeping Konoha safe, I'll give you the Shadow Clone Jutsu, which is jutsu that gives tangible clones. The scroll I will give you will have a more detailed analysis of what they do. Naruto's ears perked up and happily grins. Quickly realizing that he let his emotions escape, he covers his mouth and returns to being indifferent and serious. Hiruzen chuckled because even though Naruto turned out to be more of his father's personality and seriousness, he still had his moments where Kushina's personality is evident when he is under extreme emotions. Kushina also did that when she realized she got a bit too excited. Interrogate the traitor and make him spend his time in jail alone and in solitary confinement. Iruka, thank you for looking after Naruto. I don't know how to thank you. Hiruzen mumbled out with his authority as Hokage evident. Iruka's sweat dropped and nervously chuckled. How about we get ramen with Naruto and you pay? Iruka asked to the dread of the old cage. The allowance he promised himself for a happy retirement to still remain would be affected. Guess he will have to take a bit from his next paycheck that he normally gives to several orphanages. At the very least, one of the orphanages will remodel and won't be able to take the orphan check without any orphans, so he just won't distribute that money to the other orphanages still in operation. That should cover for the food bill. Alright then Iruka, let's go I suppose, Hiruzen said with a fake smile. Naruto noticed this and internally laughed so hard that he had to cover his mouth and pretend cough so his adoptive grandfather won't suspect that he was laughing at him. He would go senile on Naruto for doing that. Regretfully, the old cage, who was known by many fearsome names, became a bit poorer with Naruto's ramen consumption among everything. Naruto went home after his 7th extra-large ramen bowl and looked around trying to determine if the old cage followed him. Upon seeing that the coast was clear, he sat in a meditative position to talk with his parents. Naruto, are you alright? Kushina asked with worry in her face evident. Minato seemed worried while the Nine Tails looked frustrated that his host's parents keep underestimating his healing ability. I am fine. I guess I should go to sleep for the team placements tomorrow. Who knows what my Jonin-sensei will make me do tomorrow if all goes well. Kushina nodded while Minato looked into Naruto proudly for already planning what he was going to do next. It seems like Naruto will be prepared for what comes next. Son, the team placements aren't until next week since today is a Friday. Some Jonin-senseis just meet and greet and do the test the day after. Naruto crashes into the floor comedically. He looks at his dad with wide eyes. Just when I thought I was ready for whatever they pull on me tomorrow. Life pulls this on me. I guess it's my fault for not paying attention to my teachers. Naruto responded while sweat dropping slightly at his stupidity. Kushina giggles at Naruto while Minato places his hand on Naruto's hair. And that's why we are here, son. Ichiraku Ramen, the best place to get ramen hands down in Naruto's eyes. The prices were cheap, the owners were nice, and the third Hokage allowed him to eat there. In fact, they both usually went there once a week together. Today was that day when they went together to celebrate Naruto's graduation. The mood was quite festive and joyous until the third Hokage paid, put a hand on Naruto's shoulder, and teleported away in a shunshin over to the fourth's head in the Hokage monument. Naruto, I'd like for you to explain why you were able to summon the Nine Tails chakra. The Hokage ordered. Naruto visibly winced and decided to tell half-truths that no one can see through. I saw it in my mind when Mizuki mentioned me being the Kyuubi for having it sealed. I decided to piss it off when I met it in my mind because of what it did 12 years ago on my birthday, so it gave me chakra. Luckily, the seal was tightened so I was easily able to assimilate it with my chakra. Naruto explained calmly while looking straight in the Sandame's eyes. The Sandame easily accepted the response with a nod since he wasn't well versed into sealing. Not to mention, he has heard Kushina complain about being dragged into her mindscape for several unexplainable reasons. It seems that Naruto took the 9 tails sealed into him rather well despite his previous thoughts and analysis. Alright then, good. You did it on purpose, which means you are getting control of the tailed beast's chakra. If you did it on accident, the council would try to kill you under the false pretense of the Kyuubi escaping due to the 4th seal not working. Hiruzen said seriously to Naruto's shock. He didn't try to sugarcoat it for Naruto, which spoke volumes of the seriousness of the topic at hand. I learned the seal loosens every day though. So what am I supposed to do? It doesn't re-tighten by itself. And it could be accidentally triggered by intense emotion because that's what the fox told me. Naruto exclaimed. Inwardly, he knew that the Kyuubi seal would be controlled by his father and the fox was nicer when you get to know him. Though if he didn't try to come up with something, who knows what would happen when he gets access to the 9 tails power, which by the way, would still surge under intense emotion. The Sandame looked clearly surprised and stroked his beard. At best he was mediocre at sealing and only learned enough to deal with the 9 tails should the seal fail. I will allow my student to check it and tighten it once a year then. Besides, he is a Fuinjutsu master so he can teach you if you are still interested in the art of sealing Naruto. Naruto beamed at the third's response, which made the elderly Kage also smile back. Inwardly Naruto was extremely excited. He will finally be able to learn Fuinjutsu. His parents taught him theory, but he needed to test whatever he learned on a sealing scroll to see if he truly mastered certain seals. Theory and actual practice was vastly different after all. Can you tell me my team placement in advance? I think I can work with everyone but the Uchiha. He is a self-centered prick in my opinion and was more humble when he had family. Naruto asked taunted after a couple of seconds of awkward silence. Hiruzen looked clearly surprised and then started laughing. What's so funny? Naruto almost yelled out. He was slightly embarrassed that he didn't know what he said that was so funny. He is going to be on your team because the council made a meeting and voted on it. They said something about the Uchiha killing the demon brat one day. I think their reality will be proven otherwise. Your sensei will be Kakashi Hitaki, whom I believe will teach you all decently. Sarutobi said to the shock of Naruto. Naruto jumped up and used the most colorful words he knew for 5 minutes straight, insulting the hypocritical council. Sarutobi let him since he also hated the council. Alright, I am done. Now tell me why this won't be impossible and that the Uchiha will change. Naruto proclaimed to Hiruzen's amusement. This won't be impossible, but he won't change. I am afraid that he is after revenge, which is a bad motivation. It can cause him to be a flight risk, so if you see him contemplate becoming a traitor or anything, come to me and tell me so we can stop him and execute him. In desperate times when he goes insane though, if you deem him running away as a traitor, kill him. No questions asked if a shinobi of this village is killed because he becomes a traitor. The third Hokage said with all seriousness, with all remaining amusement he had previously thrown aside. Naruto's back stiffened and thought about it. Alright, I'll be sure to be on the lookout. Naruto replied with utmost seriousness. After a little bit more small talk, Naruto and Hiruzen left to their respective homes. Upon arriving to his bedroom, Naruto entered his mindscape and found his father with a serious expression. The Uchiha is a flight risk due to how he was raised. I did not think that Sarutobi would actually admit to it and give you a mission to eliminate the Uchiha if he contemplates becoming a traitor. Naruto's father said while scratching his head and having a worrisome expression. Kushina looked equally as worried and concerned. What do I do though? I haven't killed anyone. I can't just kill him like that. Minato sighed in what appeared to be relief. Good son, you actually hate killing. If anyone loved or liked or even became indifferent when they kill, then they would be true monsters. But this is for the safety of the village and the world. I am going to tell you something that no one but me knows about currently regarding the Uchiha. Minato said with seriousness while having a hand on Naruto's head. Naruto significantly relaxed at his father placing his hand on his head. It always seemed to calm him down no matter the situation. On the day of the Kyuubi attack, the day of your birth, and the day of our death. An Uchiha with a mask and one eye unsealed the 9 tails from your mother. He then took control of the 9 tails. I fought him and only barely held up to him in my opinion since his teleportation technique was leagues above mine. I believe he teleported parts of his body under attack with such precision that he wasn't able to get hit. I caught him off guard once and slammed a Rasengan on his back and put a seal making the Uchiha which released the 9 tails from his control. I believe that said Uchiha will attempt to recruit Sasuke Uchiha one day. I also believe that his clan was slaughtered due to them planning a coup even when I was in office as Hokage. If that Uchiha feeds him the wrong information, Konoha will be betrayed. Therefore, kill the Uchiha on your first chance. If that lone masked Uchiha was able to unseal the 9 tails from Kushina, then he will definitely throw the world into chaos if there's 2. Naruto knew his father put facts together and theorized something together. Even if not accurate in the future, he knows his father had a hunch that the last, loyal, Uchiha was trouble in the future. Now on to good news. Naruto's mother squeaked. Father and son had their attention brought to her. Kushina had a mischievous smirk on her face to Minato's horror. You can learn chakra chains if you meditate and balance your yin-yang chakra. I was confused why you didn't manifest them earlier like most Uzumaki do but then realized that you had an abundance of yang chakra due to the Kyuubi ceiling. I also housed the 9 tails but I had both yin and yang chakra so I was able to use them easily. Minato sealed the yin chakra into himself because the hate that the 9 tails carries in his entirety would corrode your emotions to the point that you become a cold-blooded, heartless, bloodlusting killer since you wouldn't be mature enough as a child without parents. Minato wasn't expecting me to come up with this seal, hence why he sealed half of the 9 tails into himself. Kushina ended her speech and possible rant with a smile and her hands on her hips while having a cheerful expression. Naruto looked shocked at what would have happened to him if his father did not have the insight to seal half the hate, essentially, into himself. Wouldn't that cut my strength in half though if I get control of the 9 tails chakra? Naruto looked at his parents thoughtfully. His parents had a smug and knowing look that ticked off Naruto. No, we made it so the 9 tails can conjure up some more chakra to replace what would have been his other half. His strength would be at around 95% right now when compared to his full self. The downside is that the 9 tails and Jinchuriki becomes more unstable emotionally since his yin-yang chakra isn't balanced as of right now from what I can tell. Other than that, I haven't seen any more downsides. I guess we will have to see what it does in the future. Kushina ended while leaning on Minato. Minato nodded and held his wife. Alright, enough life-changing revelations for today then. I'm leaving the mindscape since the 9 tails didn't mention any witty comments to entertain me and seems to be sleeping for some reason. Naruto concluded. Naruto hugged his parents and proceeded to leave his mindscape with one final wave of his hand. Naruto instantly fell asleep since it was a pretty long day and because tomorrow was the team placement day. The next day, Naruto woke up and made a shadow clone to cook breakfast. Meanwhile, he grabbed a change of clothing and entered the bathroom in order to shower. Upon exiting the bathroom, the clone dispelled giving Naruto the memory of the clone cooking breakfast. Shadow clones are glorified housemaids and an effective training tool. They can also be used as an attack strategy in his case if used tactically and effectively with his abundance of chakra. Originally though, they are used for spying. Naruto got up and ran over to the academy in a journey filled with hateful glares. It never ceases to amaze Naruto how they hate him for no reason. He hasn't done many, if not, 0 pranks, he hasn't killed anyone, and he hasn't pissed anyone important off. After his musing, he noticed that he arrived at the academy an hour before. Iruka was dealing with unhappy civilian parents that found that their child failed the ninja academy and wanted to bribe Iruka into letting their child in the shinobi program. Naruto shook his head in disbelief as he watched Iruka get pissed. The lengths people go to for their child's happiness despite the fact that being unprepared and not passing such an easy test at the academy would mean certain death for their child. Already knowing who his team was, he drifted into a light sleep and awoke when the bell rang signifying that class will start. He looked up with a bored expression and found Shikamaru Nara sleeping next to him. That's surprising. He never sits next to me, Naruto thought. Iruka announced the teams which he gracefully ignored if there were no clan heirs in it or if he wasn't called out. He already knew that civilians wouldn't be passed if they weren't good at all and made a name for themselves in the academy. After 6 teams he finally heard his team. Team 7 consists of Naruto Uzumaki, Sakura Haruno, and Sasuke Uchiha. Your team leader is Kakashi Hatake. Naruto sighed in displeasure and anger to the amusement of the boys in the class. Sasuke just groaned while Sakura let her fangirl instincts run wild. Sensei, choose me another team member. I refuse to believe that this girl, if you can call her that, will be able to become a shinobi if all she does is lust after my teammate. Naruto voiced out his thoughts. Sakura looked insulted because of a throbbing vein while Sasuke hurriedly nodded. Iruka's eye twitched but couldn't help but find himself agreeing. Complained to the Hokage. Next team is Team 8. Iruka went on and on about the teams till he finished and noticed that Naruto was missing. Where did Naruto go? Iruka asked menacingly to the class while adding a bit of killing intent. Shikamaru got up from his sleeping position and looked at his now former sensei. He went to complain to the Hokage 5 minutes ago. Shikamaru said to everyone's shock. Iruka gulped nervously and regretted telling Naruto to complain to the Hokage. Shit, everyone go out for a lunch break. Your new team leader will meet you after. He ran as fast as he could to the Hokage's office and found Naruto already arguing. Not only did you give me the self-centered, egotistical, isolationist prick. You gave me a girl who has whorish tendencies and probably passed by a fluke. I bet her parents bribed Mizuki into changing certain grades cause she was horrible at taijutsu, unlike what her final exam evaluation says. Naruto, stop making a damn scene here with all the future Jonin senseis. The Hokage quickly replied angrily. Hokage-sama, it's actually true that her parents bribed Mizuki for better grades and a changed psychological exam. I saw it when interrogations began with Mizuki. I wouldn't recommend putting her on a team since she is actually not even qualified. A certain scarred Jonin said. Are you kidding me, Ibiki? Fine, Naruto. She is not on your team, but you aren't getting a team anytime soon at this rate. Now I have to look for another member of your team and I hate doing that after all the paperwork I just signed for her. Now I have to sign more to remove her. Did you come here because you wanted me to get more paperwork? Huh? I know you want to laugh after you come here every time and see paperwork, you cheeky brat. Iruka entered the room at this moment after a bit of eavesdropping and saw everyone's sweat dropping and seeing their leader debate a fresh genin while worrying about paperwork. That's what you were worried about, old man? Ha ha ha, I figured you'd say that. Just make shadow clones do it for you. If you can do it alone, just make a clone do it. They have your intelligence after all. When I become Hokage, that's what I am going to do. Right now I use them as glorified housemaids. Hiruzen sprayed some wonderful words about misusing such a technique his sensei made. Then he contradicted himself and praised the kid for his ingenuity for defeating paperwork. But he then realized that doing that would decrease his lifespan more than his cancer pipe would if he's hit with the clone's memories regarding paperwork every day, and cursed Naruto for his luck of being an Uzumaki. Uzumaki after all were quite powerful with their large chakra reserves and healing ability. Eventually they both calmed down, with Hiruzen returning to the calm and grandfatherly figure and Naruto returning to the calm and collected genius that beat a Chunin in intelligence the previous day. Everyone admitted that Hiruzen let his emotions get out and that everyone including their leaders had their faults. Naruto returned to the class with a happy grin on his face and sat down in a meditative position. His mother was quite happy while his father was sighing in disbelief. You argued with the third Hokage, known as the god amongst shinobi or the professor, made him leak out his emotions, and convinced him to change your team composition. I don't know if I should be proud of you or angry that you made Hiruzen look like a fool. Minato blurted out. At least you did get rid of one more person who could have tarnished a kunoichi's reputation. Kushina said while having a huge grin on her face. Minato sighed at his wife's antics and shrugged it off. Get out of here, cheeky brat, as Hiruzen put it. You still have a team or else he wouldn't have agreed. Minato reasoned while commanding Naruto. Kushina agreed while the Kyuubi was just snickering at all that occurred. Naruto left his mindscape while inwardly laughing at his father's dilemma. Upon awaking he saw various Jonin waiting at the door to pick up their team. Iruka walked in solemnly and gave Sakura a sad expression which made her confused. Sakura Haruno, you are not fit to be a shinobi due to Mizuki changing your scores so you can become a shinobi due to your parents bribing him. Therefore, you failed the final exam, which included the physical portion and a physiological exam. You will take it again at the next exam date or be re-evaluated on those specific sections at a later date. An internal investigation will be launched immediately to see who else bribed Mizuki to change their test scores, and those shinobi will be re-evaluated. Best of luck, Haruno-san. Everyone in the class, which included most of the girls, freaked out. A certain Uchiha also visibly tensed since he may have bribed Mizuki into passing his psychological exam. Sakura ran out crying out of the classroom. Team 7 will have an available Genin Chunin take Sakura's place. Now may all Jonin instructors take your teams away. Instantly, various people walked in and took their teams out of the classroom. Team 7's instructor did not arrive until 2 hours later, which Naruto spent meditating. Naruto concluded it was due to having to find a reserve ninja for their squad in the short time allotted. Nonetheless, he wasn't very happy when he saw his new sensei. The Jonin walked in and looked around. This place looks as gloomy as the both of you. Let's meet on the roof. Maybe your other teammate will be more capable than you. With that, he waved his right hand and disappeared in a leaf shunshin. Naruto shrugged and started running up the stairs with Sasuke following closely behind. On the roof, their sensei was just casually waiting with their new teammate. It was a shadow clone hanged to be Kakashi's younger self with seals on it. Naruto didn't know, so he suspected it was his sensei's brother. Naruto entered his mindscape to get confirmation. Mom, Dad, what gives? Why is there a mini Kakashi? Minato snorted at my question and then explained. The seals are quite complex, and it seems like they made the younger Kakashi to be what he was when he was younger, because there was a chakra seal, a durability seal, and a mind restriction seal pasted on the clone's back. This indicates that there weren't any replacements, and Kakashi told the Sandame he'll get one. Naruto nodded and left his mindscape. It seems a conversation was started since Naruto just managed to catch Kakashi saying, "Guess who he is?" "Your brother?" Sasuke asked curiously. Kakashi shook his head and pointed at Naruto to take a guess. "A shadow clone hanged into a younger version of yourself," Naruto exclaimed in response to Kakashi's gesture. There's no way what his father and mother told him was wrong. Kakashi's eye widened in shock and then nodded after composing himself. "Alright then, introduce yourselves. If you can't do that on your own, then that means you are more stupid than I thought." Sasuke's eye twitched and passionately replied with saying he will kill his brother and revive his clan. Naruto, though, took things a bit far. Or at least Kakashi thought that due to his calm face freaking out. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like sealing arts, chakra, jutsu, sparring, and meditating. I dislike self-centered idiotic pricks that want to show off and villagers glaring at me with killing intent when I was younger. My hobbies are meditating to calm my emotions. My dream is to become Hokage and make my parents proud, whoever they are." Kakashi went pale at the last part since Naruto winked and had a look that said, "I know something you don't," only at him. He probably added the, "whoever they are," part so Sasuke doesn't freak out in Kakashi's opinion. "My name is Kakashi Hitaki. Anything else won't be useful for you right now. As for using a shadow clone, any other replacements were failures, and letting a Chunin in would make it impossible to test you effectively since they would know the purpose of an exam I'm giving you. After this I will get a Chunin, though, since I can't really keep a shadow over clone as a teammate. That would be madness. For now, you need to know that this exam has a 66% failure rate. This exam decides if you go back to the academy or get a team. I would highly recommend not eating breakfast unless you want to throw up. We will meet in training ground 7 at 8 in the morning. Naruto, stay here with me. We have a lot to talk about." With that, his clone left by using a shunshin. Sasuke ran back to his home to presumably prepare for the exam. Kakashi checked his surroundings to see if there was no one else around. Upon seeing he was clear, he gestured Naruto to talk. "I suppose you want to know how I learned that the Yondaime was my father?" Naruto said after a few moments of silence. Kakashi nodded slowly and had his eye open wide. "I saw my resemblance to him via the Hokage portrait in the Hokage's office. Anyone with a good brain can put 2 and 2 together. When I was younger and I hadn't unlocked chakra, I believe I asked one of Gigi's advisors who the Yondaimi's girlfriend wife was, which resulted in Kushina Uzumaki. But back then, I was too stupid to realize we shared the same last name. So it's only been recently that I pieced together the theory that they were my parents. Naruto said solemnly. Kakashi had his head down the whole time. He can already imagine Naruto being mad that no one told him they were his parents. I decided not to tell anyone though. Doing so would be a mistake for me since I know my father had enemies within and without the village, so I thanked Gigi for that. Had I discovered this fact 6 years ago, I know that I wouldn't be able to keep my mouth shut. I want to change that one day when I become strong, so I need you to train me seriously. Your attitude earlier showed you weren't going to take our training seriously. Kakashi looked at Naruto somewhat shocked. He didn't think that Naruto was that mature. First, Naruto kicks out his other teammate because she wasn't actually qualified in front of the other Jonin. Now Naruto pulled something like this. How can he let his sensei's child down? While Kakashi was distracted with Naruto's maturity and relevation, Naruto entered his mindscape. I have to thank both of you, however. If it weren't for your training, I am sure I wouldn't be able to analyze things so deeply that it would make sense how I figured out your identity. Naruto exclaimed cheerfully. His parents gave him a pat on the back and gestured for him to leave since Kakashi will most likely recover from his momentary shock soon enough. Naruto complied and found that Kakashi recovered and was about to talk. Alright Naruto, you completely guilt-tripped me unknowingly. I was close to your parents, so I'll give it my best regarding your training. You have my word, Kakashi said honestly and without a hint of ulterior intentions. This was new for Naruto since there weren't many people that did things for him without malice. Only a select few like the Hokage and Anbu did that. Next morning, Naruto started eating breakfast. He knew he wasn't supposed to, but he didn't mind throwing up. If he could throw up on his enemy, then that means he can distract the enemy with disgust and strike the enemy. That was Naruto's logic. Naruto then ran over to Training Ground 7 and arrived at 8 in the morning like previously arranged. Sasuke arrived a moment later. After Sasuke arrived, Kakashi's shadow clone arrived by utilizing a shunshin. The three waited for Kakashi to arrive. The clone got frustrated 5 minutes in until he suddenly sensed something and threw a kunai at a random tree to Naruto and Sasuke's interest. A figure jumped out and landed in front of the two genin and clone. Good job sensing me. That sounded weird. Now then, we will begin the test. All you have to do is take a bell and you pass. If you fail, I tie you to a stump and send you back to the academy tied up in a box through the mail after eating in front of you. Ready, set, go. Kakashi laced the area with killing intent to make his point clear on the part where he will send you back to the academy, and said the last part as fast as possible and dodged a strike from below. His clone made a shadow clone at some point to sneak attack Kakashi. Sasuke was grabbed by Naruto and pulled over somewhere in the forest. Sasuke and Naruto discussed a plan together to team up and beat Kakashi since there were two bells and the clone is just a clone, so he didn't need one in all honesty. After that they appeared again in Kakashi's direct line of sight. Naruto got into a taijutsu stance that Sasuke had never seen before. Kakashi and his clone's eyes widened. Naruto started striking with great speed at Kakashi. Shit, that's Minato-sensei's taijutsu. I haven't seen it in so long. The clone said with awe. Sasuke's eye widened and understood that that was the Yondaimi's taijutsu. He raised an eyebrow at Naruto and decided he would ask his fellow teammate later. Kakashi was not expecting for Naruto to be so proficient at the taijutsu style his sensei used. Naruto then made 3 shadow clones to help him fight Kakashi. Kakashi easily popped the clones but was too busy reminiscing about the past while fighting Naruto that he didn't even notice Sasuke going through some hand signs behind him. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. Sasuke said out loud. The fireball approached his new sensei with intense heat. Kakashi quickly substituted with a log and watched up in the trees as the log burned. He almost didn't hear his signature jutsu behind him as he watched and thought, this is some pretty insane teamwork. I should have brought one bell to isolate them apart since they think only the two of them have to get it and not the clone since it's a clone. I really should have rethought this instead of drinking with Guy again. He quickly fell from the tree and hanged upside down while using the tree walking exercise to stick under the branch he was standing on. His clone jumped off the tree while in confusion at the original's evasive maneuver. Kakashi thought things over and decided that he would pass them anyways since their teamwork almost got him, but would keep going to test Naruto and Sasuke's individual skills. Kakashi jumped down from the tree. "Naruto, you won't get me surprised any longer with that taijutsu style," Kakashi said calmly. Naruto grinned at Kakashi and made a rat seal. Kakashi's eye widened as he heard explosions. Smoke, dust, and rocks flew up around him as he heard Sasuke launch another fireball. He didn't know where the fireball was coming from since he wasn't going to use his Sharingan eye. Kakashi just once again substituted with a log and watched it burn from above. "You all pass. Congratulations and welcome to Team 7. Clone. Dispel now since I was going to tie you to the stump anyways for not working with your team." Kakashi's clone obliged. He then turned to his other two genin. The purpose of this test was teamwork. "Surprisingly, you two worked together. What brought this on Sasuke?" Kakashi asked curiously. "Naruto said we should work together since the clone is a clone and there were two bells. One for both of us. He said a genin can never take on a jonin, so you were probably going to test us on working together. Your clone's first move convinced me I can't hope to keep up with your speed as well as that killing intent, which also convinced me of your strength. So I took Naruto's advice." Kakashi threw an interesting look at Naruto, who just shrugged. Kakashi sighed out in wonder and then made a hand sign. "Alright then, now meet your Chunin teammate. Hana Inuzuka. She is a tracking and heavy assault specialist." With that, a girl that seemed older than them by a few years appeared. She was accompanied by 3 dogs. She had a Chunin vest and was staring at Kakashi unimpressed. "Hello there, my name is Hana Inuzuka. Although I am a tracking and heavy assault specialist, I am currently beginning my training to become a medical ninja specialized in animals. With such a change, Kakashi is allowing me on your team so I can have a balance between medical ninja training and shinobi training. I should remain your teammate until the next Chunin exams, whether you pass or fail those exams, because that's when my medical training should be done. These are my dogs, which you will get to know soon. I have to leave right now for some previous appointment made." With that, she left with a determined look in her eyes. Kakashi had a noticeably bored look and looked at his two genin. "Tomorrow we will train with Hana and begin our first mission. Sasuke, come with me. We have to redo your psychological test. If you fail it, you will be placed under a Yamanaka psychologist to try and sort out any mental issues." With that, Sasuke nodded and followed Kakashi. Naruto looked at them until they disappeared from his sight and ran off to his house to go rest and eat a steak that he made a shadow clone cook beforehand. The day was pretty straightforward in his opinion. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.